So at the onset of this year, which is 2024, as I'm filming this, I had determined to let go of the past. Because a lot of times, there's things in the past that have handicapped or debilitated us from having a secure and joyful life in the Lord. It's almost like a comfortable place. I know when the Israelites were in bondage to Egypt, they were were laden down with heavy burdens. The Egyptians had put heavy burdens on their shoulders, more than they can bear, and God brought them out. And when they got into the desert places, into the unknown, Egypt looked so much more inviting and so much more comfortable that they actually wanted to go back. They forgot what they went through, and they forgot what God brought them out of, but they wanted to go back to the comfortable place even though they weren't happy. And this is important for us to know about our past, because a lot of times we will cling to the familiar or the comfortable even though we didn't like it when we were in it. And we say, if I ever get out of this, I will not go back. But then we want to go back to the comfortable place because it seems more appealing than the unknown. But if you want to be intentional about moving on from the past, you should try to figure out where you are now. And that involves looking at where you were and knowing that's not a place you want to go back to. And then try to figure out what direction you're going to go. You have to determine what you want to be, but more importantly, you have to determine what you don't want to be. Because if you don't do this, if you're not intentional, you're going to slip right back into the place that you don't want to go, the place that God took you out of mercifully by his grace and mercy led you out of, and then you've already forgotten. You've already lost your thankfulness for that, and you're going to slip back into it. It's like you can't just say, I'm going to be free of my past, and then it miraculously just happened because you decide that that's what you want. You have to make steps in the direction of the place that you want to be. So you can't change the past. It's locked and done, but you can learn from the past. If you decide of what you want to become and what you don't want to become, you can avoid pitfalls that lay in your path. Once you know which direction you are going, you can formulate a plan and goals and what you will do if you are tempted to quit. So the goals are going to move you into a direction. And if you set small, tiny goals, you can get one step further and one step further from this place, point A, closer to point B. So every time you get closer to where you want to go, you're moving further from where you have been. And this is important. Let me give you a biblical example. You know, we talked about the Israelites and how they were delivered out of Egypt, but they wanted to go back when things got a little difficult, when they were tempted to quit, because they didn't have their eyes on the goal. They just thought they were going to move out of Egypt. It was going to be easy to get to the promised land. They didn't consider the journey between the two. And the journey was moving steps in the direction away from where they had been. And so there's a scripture that I want to read to you out of Deuteronomy, and I'll only read you a little part. But it's in Deuteronomy 11, and it starts, I'll just start in verse 26. And if you're interested, you can go back and read the whole chapter, but it's a good piece. See, I am placing before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you listen to the commandments of the Lord your God, which I am commanding you today, and the curse, if you do not listen to the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside from the way which I am commanding you today, by following other gods which you have not known. And it shall come about when the Lord your God brings you into the land where you are entering to possess it, that you shall place the blessing on Mount Gerizim and the curse on Mount Ebal. Are they not across the Jordan west of the road toward the sunset, in the land of the Canaanites who live in the Arabah, opposite Gilgal, beside the oaks of Moreh? For you are about to cross the Jordan to go in and take possession of the land which the Lord your God is giving you, and you shall possess it and live in it. And you shall be careful to do all the statutes and the judgments which I am placing before you today. Okay, so you had Mount Gerizim and you had Mount Ebal. Let's see, Mount Gerizim was the place of blessing. So we will put that here. Mount Gerizim, you had several tribes, or a few of the tribes, I don't know how many, were on top of this mountain shouting blessings. And then on Mount Ebal, you had some of the tribes shouting out curses. In the middle, you had the valley, and this is where the people were. So they were literally standing in the valley of decision. And you have to make a decision to determine, like for me, moving away from the past, I don't want to choose for myself. I want God to choose for me. So if I want God to choose for me, I have to listen to his voice. And no matter how difficult the journey is, moving away from the past, no matter how unknown it is or how difficult it is, if I'm following his voice, I am safe, and I'm following the path of blessing rather than the path of cursing. So I hope this is giving you something to think about, and these are just some of my thoughts. This is something that I have been working on as we're about to step our toes into September right now. It's been a journey from January to here, and I'm excited to see what God is going to do in the future. But anyway, thank you for watching. Have a blessed day. It's all about Jesus.